Welcome everyone to another episode of the Protect the Dream Project. I am your host. That's me right there, Mark DeLeon, insurance broker. I'm an insurance agent based out in Durham region. That's the east side of the Greater Toronto area. So if you're out here and you need a little help with that, you'll see all the contact stuff at the end. So before we get going, I want to let you know what the Protect the Dream Project is about. The goal of the Protect the Dream Project is to be a resource to help you move forward, to inspire you, to encourage you to persevere. We've gone through some tough times, like everybody has. No one is alone in this last little while. We want to give you the tools to make those dreams that you have become a reality. We're all thinking about that shift. You see the great resignation, big resignation that everybody's been talking about. And a lot of people are thinking about going into business for themselves. But along the way, we want to help you protect the dream, to help you understand about the things that could possibly derail you, and to give you the power to overcome them and be able to deal with that. So not only are we going to talk about the feel-good stuff, to give you confidence and build your joie de vivre, I guess is the word. I don't know. But we're also going to talk about the practical stuff. So things like insurance and retirement and investing for a rainy day, and all the little steps that you need to take to make that dream come true and to help you protect the dream. In doing that, today we've got a really great guest for you. My guest today, his name is David Cohen. So David Cohen is one of these guys that if you met him, you would be inspired by David Cohen. He's very low key. He's a very low key guy, but he's got some really wise words to offer you. I met David Cohen, maybe 20 years ago, something like that. And he's one of those guys that really inspire me. Whenever he has an event or he's doing something and I hear about it, I'm always moved to go and listen to him. We've become friends, pretty good friends over the last little while. In fact, one of the reasons why I do this is because of David Cohen. He kindled a fire that I've had many years ago to be in broadcasting, and we'll talk about it as we go forward. So let me bring David Cohen in, introduce you to David Cohen. Here is David Cohen. Good afternoon, David Cohen.
Hello, Mark DeLeon. It's so nice to be here and to inspire you, my friend. You inspire me too, though. It works two ways.
Oh, thank you very much. But just for the audience, getting back to what I was saying about the inspiration you provided me. David, if you live, I guess, in the eastern side of the Greater Toronto area, a number of years ago, I'm not going to say how many. But David was the host of a show and the creator of a show called Small Business Big Ideas, and I had the fortunateness, if that's a word, of being
a good fortune.
A good fortune, yeah, exactly, of being a regular participant. I guess I was your tech guy at the time, and I owned a tech company for about 16 years, and I participated in David's show. And I'll tell you, David, that for me was exciting. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. But the show itself gave some really great nuggets and continued to inspire me. And it's a show that I'm hoping that at some point in time you will consider bringing back on the air. I mean, but I'm sure that's for another story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, David, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, boy. Started in advertising marketing, went through the old life change, marriage breakup, and got into training and coaching through a personal development program I took called Landmark Education. And it really changed my life. And I started to coach entrepreneurs and teach entrepreneurs, and I haven't looked back since. So I've written books for entrepreneurs, did the radio show, as you alluded to, and have had a really nice teaching, coaching career. Sometimes lean, depending on, things, but overall it's been really, really rich, and not necessarily in the dollars and cents of it, but in the experiences and the people I've met. You being one of them, and you were actually I had the good fortune of having you as an advertiser and a client. And part of that, you'd come in and would, in your former life in the office supplies and industry, you'd come in and do tech segments and talk about the latest gadgets and gizmos that you were selling, because there's only so much you can do, Mark, talking about paper and pens, that doesn't interest people. What interests people are neat toys and technology that's going to help run your business more effectively.
You're absolutely right. Pens and pencils. Yeah, I can only say so much about a ballpoint pen, right? They don't
I
do
know.
certain things, right?
Exactly.
So, but but that was actually not a bad business to be in. I enjoyed it. I met a lot of really interesting people. So, David, how did you get into being an entrepreneur? Like, what brought you to the point where you said, you know what, I know this is what I'm gonna do for I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna make a living on the soles of my feet. What was that story for you?
Oh boy, nobody would hire me.
I'm sure.
No,
I'm sure there's people out there that's gonna hire you. I've seen you in action.
It kind of happened. Sort of like my career dream when I was in my 20s was to be in advertising, and I got into advertising. I started as a account manager for a radio station, and it was commission only, right? So in a sense, when you're commission, you're really self-employed. And then I moved from radio, because in radio, here's the challenge selling radio. You're only as good as your ratings, your station's ratings. So, and the station I was at that time, lost half their ears because they had a format change, and they lost half their audience, right? So I went, this isn't really very good. And I remember, like, this is where it hit me, okay? So we would get ad agencies calling us to get our numbers, like our ratings and our what's called gross ratings points, GRPs, and CUMs, which means what are the cumulative audiences we had. And it was an agency in Toronto that wanted to make a buy on the station for, I think it was Swiss Chalet and Harvey's, right? And I came back to them with the numbers, and it's like we didn't even come close in terms of having enough ratings, cumulative audience, and GRPs to even warrant them making a buy. And I went, this isn't going to work out too well. As good as the station was and the people that worked there were, the fact that they had changed formats twice in 1 year really hurt. So I got into a different end of marketing and advertising, and that was in promotional products and incentives and corporate programs for companies. And and then again, that was commission only. So in a sense, that was sort of my introduction to being self-employed. So I was just sort of used to, doing sales and being the creator of my own income rather than getting paid by a company to do work.
So I know the challenges like doing. I mean, when you jump into to self-employment, you've got to be. It's really a mindset change, an expectation change for a lot of people. I know for me, getting involved in it, I've actually been self-employed for the vast majority of my career. So since I was in university, I did hold a job, if you want to call it a real job, back in the late 90s, and September 11th occurred. And when September 11th occurred, I lost my job, and within about 2 months of that, I had my company up and running. The company that I had running when we met. So for me, it was I guess more of a push back into something that I actually enjoy doing more than working for someone. There's certain aspect of relief when you are self-employed, but boy, I tell you, being self-employed has its challenges.
Hmm.
What were some of the challenges that you faced when you were just starting out?
I think the number one was lack of confidence, especially in sales, because I was younger, and it's like that lack of confidence. I think that was one to get over. Um, and in terms of having the right ideas, and really, I guess having that mentor or that person that says, no, no, here's how you do it. You got the right stuff. Just go do it. You know, being in business back then wasn't the same as it is now. I think now owners and bosses are a bit more, they're coaches more than they were managers. And back then they were like, I worked for business owners in some cases, and they weren't coaches, and they weren't good managers. They were owners, right? And an owner doesn't necessarily make you a good coach or advisor. And even in radio, we got taught a process. I think managers, owners need to be really good coaches and teachers, and I think that might have been the gap, right? Yeah.
So, what is it about being self-employed that keeps you self-employed? I mean, you know, the ups and downs of the ups and downs of business ownership really takes its toll on people. Um, there are days, I know you can speak to many business owners where there are days they're just kind of pulling their hair and they're saying, "Well, what am I doing this for?" Right? What has kept you? What has kept you as a self-employed person?
That's a good question. You mentioned 9/11. I think when COVID hit too, that really affected a lot of us who were um, doing it for ourselves in terms of, oh man, is this even a good time to call people? And truthfully, it wasn't. So um, I think it's having a why, and also that, what's your why are you doing this? Even with you're doing your show because you want to support people who are wanting that dream in these sort of challenging times. And I think being really clear as to what your why is a big motivating factor. The other thing is the fact that we have that creative freedom as entrepreneurs, and we have freedom to call our own shots. And I think that's really, really an important factor too. The thing of it is you have to have that stick to itiveness, and yes, we have that creative freedom and the freedom to call our own shots, but you also need some discipline to make it happen. So I think when you can combine those two, you're gonna be okay. And yeah, and you've got to be prepared. There's gonna be down times, and there's gonna be really good times. So you just have to be prepared and ride both of those out.
I also think one of the big things about being self-employed is also the decision-making process in your day to day. Quite often, you make decisions that may not necessarily work out the way you expect them to, and
Hmm.
you have to be willing to fall on your sword and live with the decisions you make. There's nobody you can complain all you want, but the only one who has to answer for it is you, right? So self-employed people, they need to yeah, you're building a plan, but part of your plan, I guess, if you're going into self-employment, is to decide if you are emotionally or mentally fit to be able to handle that roller coaster ride that comes with being self-employed. It's not always an easy road to hoe.
No, you're right, and it isn't. And the emotions, you almost have to like talk to yourself throughout the day and coach yourself. Okay, you got rejected by that client, or they said no, or the deal you were working on fell through, and you need to really not make it personal, but learn from it, and get back on phone and make that next call, for example, right? So you can't let fear and rejection and the emotions of being in business override you. You know, I always say sleep on it. Even if you're making a decision to make a big purchase, yeah, it's all exciting to get that new website or get that new technology, but stop, think, sleep on it. Do we really need it right away? Can it wait? Is there a better time? So just slow it down. And, I'm going to use an old quote, be the ball. It's like slow down and take your time with everything.
So for someone who is going to be starting a business, because a lot of people during this COVID time have, as I kind of said in the opening,
Yeah.
they've decided that I'm not going back to the office, and the bosses who then say, okay, well, if you're not coming back to the office, well, that's fine, but you have no job here. So now you have to decide, well, it's time for me to get my own business if that's the decision. The word is pivot, I guess they say, and the question for them is, okay, where do I begin? Where should I start? So what advice would you have for someone who is never even experienced the network marketing position? Where would you suggest that they start in the process of starting a business?
Well, don't get into network marketing so fast. Number one, realize your gifts. What are your gifts and talents and passions? That's number one. Number two, start thinking about who needs these. Who needs my gifts? Who do I want to help? Who would be my ideal client, right? That's number two. Number three, do proper homework, research the costs involved in starting. Research, know your market, know how your industry helps somebody else. Also, get help and training. We're so blessed, and I know earlier this week I suggested you connect with the Business Advisory Center Durham, where you live, and look into some of their training programs, because there are these government training programs that have a small grant associated with it. And not that grant's going to, catapult you into, Elon Musk's company. Darn. Sorry, the grant won't buy you Twitter. But, at least it'll get you on your feet a little bit and ease some of the burden of your startup costs. But get help. There's lots of help and training that's out there with these, what's called the small business centers throughout Ontario. In Toronto, it's Enterprise Toronto. In Mississauga, it's the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center. In Durham, it's the BACD. So there's all these centers that are there with training programs and consulting at no charge. So get that help as well. And then start to call people, start to test your idea and research the idea. What do people feel about it? Get validation. Yes, you like it. No, you don't. What price do you like it at? Would you buy this? Would you buy this if it's not now? Would you buy it in future? So do your research and your homework first, because you can spend a lot of time and money on getting your business up and running, and then only to find that there's no customers for it, right? Or the idea maybe needs some work still, right? I'll give you a real quick case study. So I was launching a sales training program for nonprofit organizations to coach or to train their job developers. So they were in the employment Ontario field and helping people get jobs during this time we've been in. And so my idea was to train their job developers who are interfacing with companies to hire their people, right? That are coming to them for career counseling or resume writing or interviews and things like that. So I was wanting to launch a sales training program for these organizations and their job developers. So the research was like, could show me right away that they liked it, but they didn't have the budget for it. And then I think more than 8 companies or organizations I sent to didn't even bother to fill in the survey. I did a Survey Monkey. So that told me a story that don't invest too much time, money, and energy into this, because there's no energy coming back. Now, I did get a couple clients from it, and that was great. But overall, it was a bit disappointing in terms of the results. So do your homework too. Do that research ahead of launching something, so you know where you stand and you know what you have to do to maybe make your business happen. So I think those are probably the 4 or 5 most critical points. Know yourself, know your gifts, identify who can benefit, do your research, get help along the way, like training and consulting from these organizations that do it at no charge, and a network when you can. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Forgot to turn that back
That's
on.
okay.
In your opinion, what is the biggest reason that a business is successful or unsuccessful? Now, from my perspective, I think a lot of small business people fail to realize that there's really one key element in your business when you begin, and even as you continue, and that is to market, and market some more. A lot of people fail to realize that without marketing and sales, you really have no business, and everything else falls after that. Is a result of that. So would you concur with my my thought process here? Would you say that the inability or the lack of marketing effort plays a big role in success or lack thereof?
I'm going to agree, and can I add on to it? So you have to be targeted with your marketing. So you have to know your audience. Then you need to know where they're hanging out. Where are they listening to, watching? What social media channel are they on? And then you need to know about what are their challenges, and then speak to their challenges and issues in a way that is sharing the value of what you bring. So let's say you're working with busy entrepreneur moms, and where are they hanging out? Chances are they're either in Facebook, for example, if you're looking at social media, or maybe they're at a mom's networking group, mom entrepreneur networking group, or maybe they're on Instagram, right? So you want your messaging to speak to them, right? And not about you. It's not about how great you are. It's about, hey, are you a busy, entrepreneur mom? Are you challenged by this? Well, guess what? We've got something I think you need to know about, right? So you want to share the value of your offering. So make sure your marketing is smart and tailored to your audience, and not a heavy sell. You don't want to sell. Your marketing is not about selling. It's really about attracting interest from possible buyers. The other key point to add on to what you're saying, Mark, yeah, marketing is important. The other thing, don't be a one-trick pony. Don't just do social media. Do other things like network and advertise maybe in a magazine, whatever it is, or write or do what you're doing is a great form of advertising, right? Your clients now see you in a different light as an expert, and it's not a hard sell what you're doing. You're mentioning your business, but you're not like beating people over the head. You're offering added value. So that's brilliant marketing. But the other thing you mentioned too was sales, and that I think is one of the key points of why businesses don't make it. You have to learn how to sell. You cannot sell and talk to people in a way that's professional and have a sales process that works. You're not going to be in business that long. And dude, I've seen it. I've worked in these small business training programs throughout, the GTA, and and I do teach sales. And if you cannot sell, and get meetings and know how the sales process works, and get over your fear of rejection, if you can't do that, you're not going to be in business very long. I remember coaching in Durham region with the self-employment benefit program in Whitby, and the ones that made it were able to sell. The ones that didn't make it weren't. It's like, why aren't you calling clients? Well, my website's going to do all the work for me. Oh, well, good luck with that. Are they going to have personal relationships with customers? Are they going to take time to understand the customers and ask them really critical questions? Are they going to are they going to follow up with customers? Your website? Probably not, so you better, you better get good at selling and working with people and understanding them and taking time to build those relationships.
Yeah, I think there's still the need for a certain amount of traditional business acumen. From that, by that I mean, as you said, people expect to throw up a website and the world's going to come rushing to their door, and it doesn't work that way.
No.
Even in the modern times, and not to belittle anyone, but I recently noticed a email marketing company, a very large email marketing company, and they promoted themselves as the best email marketing providers out there. But yet they are marketing their business on radio and television, right? So their premise initially was that because we're the best, people are going to come to us and we're going to take over the world simply through our email platform. Well, obviously they're realizing that their email platform is not the end all and be all of marketing. That you've got to use other methods to reach potential clients and to reach out so people become aware of you, right? So the traditional part of getting to know people and pressing the flesh, as they say, we're not shaking hands anymore. We're fist bumping is still a very important part of any business and to be successful, particularly when you're starting out. I think it's important that you get out there and meet the other business people in your community, so they get to know who you are and build a relationship with you and establish at least some sense of what you do. It's a little easier once you are within that community to find support and like-minded people, and hopefully they will start referring people to you, and you can use that as a jumping off point as well too.
Yes.
So my next question for you, and we're getting close to the end here, David. My next question for you: what was or is one of your biggest victories in small business or in business in general?
It was probably the radio show that I did. I mean, I was doing coaching and training as well. So I think the biggest victory was getting to interview people like Jack Canfield and the late Dr. Stephen Covey. Dr. Covey probably more so than anybody. He passed on a few years ago, but it took me over 2 years to get that interview. Nobody sees that, right? You just say, "Oh, you got Stephen Covey, way to go." Yeah, well, it took 2 years and I almost gave up. But the awe of being able to interview somebody that you really, really love and admire, and I really loved his work. I still to this day, I include him in my training program, especially sales training, which is, this one of the habits is, number 6 is seek to understand before being understood. And that's really important. You've got to understand your customer before you tell everybody how great you are. You got to see, if they even want what you have and are interested first, right? So anyway, I think that was a really pivotal moment in saying, "Oh, you know what? Good work. You arrived." And I was so proud of that moment. And it was like a week before Christmas. So I handled it like I got a Christmas present for the listeners of the show. And that was that was a big moment.
I think.
And Mark, it's not about the money or the fame or success. It's that internal pride. It's the internal joy that, oh man, I saw something I wanted come to pass.
And I think for a lot of business people, at least small business people, that that's really it. Okay, yeah, the money's important. I mean, let's not escape that. But it's the thought that, look at this. I built this. I worked hard, and this is where I am. I started with nothing, and or I achieved this in my business or whatnot. It's the feeling that you said of pride, and the feeling of that warm feeling inside that you've done something that maybe someone else maybe not be able to do is actually a driving force for, I think, for a lot of small business owners. There's more than money in terms of hitting that level of success, or that idea of success that someone has. I know for me, with my tech company, my biggest, I guess not my biggest, but a couple of things that I was really proud of was that I became a supplier to the Canadian Armed Forces for JTF-2 up in the Arctic Circle. Interesting.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was also the provider of office products to the largest office products manufacturer in the country. Now, I always thought that was odd, but it worked out very interestingly. So that was the second one, and the third
Who
one.
was it?
It was Hilroy Canada. Hilroy Canada.
Oh yeah, okay, over on Caledonia.
Yeah. They were one of my bigger clients. And,
did they push you for a discount on their products?
No, they didn't. You know what? They were a really good customer. They worked well with me, and for a large corporation like Hilroy to give a small business an opportunity, I was pleased by that. I was grateful for that, and I worked really hard to make sure that they were satisfied with whatever they bought from me. But it was I thought it was a big feather in my hat. I thought, look at the irony in this. But it was great. See, it made more sense for them from a organizational point of view to buy their supplies from outside than having to take it from their inventory, right? It's made it easier for them. And my third victory for myself in that business was I was a authorized dealer for Panasonic, and we were selling.
Oh wow! Okay.
We were selling are you familiar with electronic whiteboards? Yeah, electronic. Okay.
Yeah.
So Panasonic
Smartboard.
Right. So Panasonic had gotten into that market, and they had a pretty good product. So my company did the largest installation of Panasonic whiteboards in the country at that point in time. For them.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So we did the installation, we did the training. It was a couple of good victories. So, when you look back, and I know a lot of people can't say tend, but a lot of people look back, and quite often they see the valleys, and they don't see the hills, right? So I think it's really important for us, particularly as small business people, to see the hills, to see our victories, and to move from hilltop to hilltop, to help maintain that balance and help maintain that positive outlook. So that, okay, you know what, today, not such a good day. Maybe tomorrow's not such a good day either, but the good days will come, and you've got to enjoy them and keep them in the back of your mind so you can keep moving forward and pushing yourself forward, right? So
yeah. And the other thing you should be really proud of is when you called on Hilroy, there's a Lowe's and a Home Depot kitty corner to where Hilroy is located in the city of Toronto. So you should be really proud that you didn't spend all your money that you earned at those two stores.
Yeah, well, that's given the price of wood these days.
I know. Honey, we're going on a date. It's very romantic. It's expensive. I made dinner, and where is it? It's at the lumber department.
Exactly. Exactly. I got a 2-for-1 coupon.
Exactly. Nothing says love like, sitting by a 2x4,
Well,
It's
you know
like,
what? My from my wife, if it was flooring, she would be happy with it. Let's go look at the flooring. You know. So,
yeah.
but so David,
Yeah.
what's coming up for you? I know you're an author as well.
Mm.
Are you bringing out any new books, or what's coming up with
Um,
David?
wow. Thanks for the ask. I have two books, but yes, I'd like to come up with a book in the next year. Just a small book. I do have a podcast called Rise, which stands for Rise Impact Socially Aware Entrepreneurs. So I'm just getting that really going now. I've got a couple of training contracts that I'm working on with organizations who want to do entrepreneur training programs. And so I'm really proud of that. And I'm also wanting to launch a membership site for my business and do a rebranding and a membership site for entrepreneurs to feel the support they need and and provide content and programs for them to tap into by just becoming members. So I'm working on that. It's long term. All the stuff you want to do takes time. That's the other thing. I really caution entrepreneurs, if you're starting out, give yourself time and don't rush. Do it well. Yeah.
Where can people reach you? Like, first of all, actually, before we get to that, what are the names of the books you currently have out if people want to access
Oh,
those?
one's
If you haven't,
called. Hang
no
on. I'm
problem.
just gonna reach over it if I don't drop this. Here we
Let's
go.
let's let's
There's
let,
one.
the weekly three. All
Yeah,
right.
so that's on Amazon. Weekly three turbocharge. Yeah, turbocharge your life and business. So that's the latest. That came out a couple of years ago. And then just reach me at thedavidcohengroup.com, or I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook. My
Excellent.
previous profile got hacked on Facebook. So if you
Oh,
see me in a light blue T-shirt, that got hacked. I'm not even using that. So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I have I'm now in a sports jacket, so I look a
Yes, you
little
look
better
very
than.
sharp. You look very sharp. I've
Yeah,
seen
there
that
you go.
picture.
Well, yeah. So that's where you get me. I'm on Twitter, but real sparingly.
Okay.
These things take up so much time. And
Oh,
Mark,
I
like,
know. I know. I know.
you really have to be judicious about where you spend your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would encourage anyone, if you are in the Greater Toronto area, and you
Thank you.
see David Cohen's participating in a business function or a meet and greet, or I would encourage you to reach out to David Cohen or go out and meet David Cohen. He brings a lot of value to small business people. He is a man that I highly respect, and there's always something to learn. There's experience from others that you may not have, and he has helped so many young people. I know when I speak to a lot of young people, particularly some of the places I've been with in the city, and they'll ask me, "Do you know David Cohen?" I said, "Yeah, I know David Cohen." Or, "You need to meet my friend David Cohen." I say, "Yes, I know David Cohen." So David is quite the well-known and established coach within the small business community here in the Greater Toronto area, and he brings value to your business. So, all right. So,
Thanks, man.
David, before I go, I need to tell people about
Mhm.
their life insurance. Go ahead
Yes.
and do that. Okay. So,
Yeah.
if you are looking to get your insurance reviewed, if you're looking to talk about life insurance for yourself and your family, maybe you've just gotten married, maybe you have small children, maybe you are at that stage in life where you're on the other side of that hill, and you're really starting to think about planning what are you going to do with the money you've worked hard for, and how are you going to protect it. Then I think you and I need to sit down and have a conversation. I can be reached here if you want to connect with me. There's my email address, my Facebook location, my LinkedIn location as well. Feel free to send me a direct message, and I'll be more than happy to speak with you, and we can set up a little Zoom conference or even meet in person now that we're kind of a little allowed to do so. Yeah, and that's it. David, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate this. We will sit down and have a coffee very soon.
Please God, that would be nice. And just a word on what you're doing with insurance, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
For entrepreneurs, you've got to protect yourself first. That's your number one thing. Then it's financial growth. And I had a colleague a number of years ago who got sick, didn't have critical illness
Right.
and insurance. And she couldn't really, it cost her whole lifestyle. So not only is she getting challenged by trying to get better, but then she's going through this upheaval of her lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So you really, really have to have a game plan to at least protect your current lifestyle.
And
and then you start making big money.
Well, exactly, and well, because you can do it without having to worry about, you have that thing in the back of your head, the what if, right?
Yeah.
We are at a stage in society where a lot of more people are, the Cancer Society says 1 in 2 people will get cancer of some form in their life.
Yeah.
Stroke happens. All forms of disabilities happen, and it's not necessarily about death. It's about your ability to earn a living and to maintain yourself and maintain your life, maybe not lifestyle, but maintain your life, period.
Yeah.
And that's what insurance does for people. I think people need, particularly business people, small business owners in particular, need to be more concerned about that portion of their life. And unfortunately, not enough are. Every day you see the announcement, so-and-so has passed away, or so-and-so, and we are starting a GoFundMe. No issue with GoFundMe, but if you had done it right the first time, GoFundMe would not be something you be reliant on. And a GoFundMe doesn't solve all the problems that come with it. So really, it's something to think about. So thank you very much, David Cohen, and
Blessings.
we are going to fade to black right now.